Hey guys, I'm Pascal from Orangepixel and welcome to another video. If this is the first time on the channel, we're in my living room and that usually means business type of talking. And also it means there is gonna be any minute now that some or one of our cats is showing up in the video. Let's see how long it takes before they show up. A few weeks ago I sent out a bad signal on Twitterverse, had no topic for a video, ended up with a topic but not from that shout out, but Tiberius on Twitter had so many great ideas for video topics, but also in a way questions for a Q&A. I figured coming up with so many good topics it deserved a little video. So today's video I'm gonna go through all his questions. I haven't really prepared these, just wrote them down and I'm gonna give you some answers to them. This is gonna be interesting. Some of these maybe require a full video later on, but most of these are either handled on this channel already and the camera is shaking because we have the first cat interfering with my video. Loki, hello. Anyway, I'm gonna go through these questions and give you some answers after the intro. Alright, let's do this. First question, and like I said, I haven't prepared these questions at all, so maybe some of them won't get an answer. We'll just have to see how this works out. First, can you speak about working with publishers as an indie developer, making deals? What's a bad deal? What's a good deal? Some basic info, contracts, negotiation, working, not working with lawyers, do's and don'ts, and any advice on this topic? Oh boy, this is going to be a long video. No, I'll keep it short. I've worked with a publisher before. I can't say specifics on that deal, but I mentioned this in an earlier video a few years ago. The thing with dealing with publishers and a contract in general, look at the worst case situation. What if everything goes wrong, nothing works out as you expected it to? Would you still be happy with the contract and the results? I mean, there's always financial stuff in the contracts. There's always things that the publishers should do and things that you have the rights to and they want the rights to or will want the rights to, and all those type of things. Let's say the worst case situation is the publisher doesn't really do good promotional marketing for your game, doesn't really put in a lot of extra money for development, or you figure the game is starting to become bigger, we need extra funding, publisher doesn't do it. Worst case scenario, based on what in the contract, would you still be happy? Did the publisher already fund you for a certain amount of time? In that case, can you just ignore it, stop there, don't add all the extra features even if the publisher is requesting them? Don't add them unless they are funding you. If they don't fund you, do you still have that money that they gave you? Is that enough to make this project a success? It's very hard to just talk about these things, but that's pretty much in your head. You have to figure out worst case scenario. If the publisher fails to do their thing, will I still be happy? And that contract goes with everything you sign. If you're selling your games on other platforms and you sign a contract with them, worst case scenario, if they don't really do the numbers you think they should or would, or that they promise you, would you still be happy with that contract? Do you lose money on it? Do you lose anything with it? Or is it gonna be a good, or is in the end, are you still gonna be happy anyway? And it's about working with lawyers. I never worked with lawyers. They also cost you a lot of money. You have to learn how to read a contract. It's not, I mean, there are always sneaky little things in contracts, but that's just lawyer talk. The other side of it, your contact person on the other end doesn't even understand them either. They have a lawyer, most likely. Of course, if you can afford a lawyer or if you know a lawyer, then lawyer up and make sure they read the contract. I think you can get very far without having to do that. There's always a little bit of a gut feeling. Trust that one. That's much cheaper, but also I think very important. If your gut feeling says it's right, then it's probably right. If your gut feeling says there's something wrong, this might not be the thing I'm looking for, then don't do it. Or get a lawyer and make them look at it. But at that point, you probably already know that you don't want it. You want to move on anyway. All right, second question. Porting, publishing on platforms. How do you start? When to try it? Benefits, costs, what to look out for? I teamed up with somebody who is porting my games, but I'm the publisher myself of those games, so he's pretty much doing the work, then hands it back to me and I distribute it and release it and then give him his 50%. We are equal partners. Usually you'll end up with a porting house, or distributor, porting publisher, whatever you want to call it. They really take a huge amount of games, port it to other consoles, release it there, and then are the publisher on those consoles, so it's all under their name. Yeah, depending on the amount of work you have to do yourself and how much control you want to keep on your game, it can pretty much all work. It really depends. You have to look at how much you have to put in and how much you're going to get out. And if that's in balance, and again, like the previous question, if you got a gut feeling that it's okay and if you're happy with the worst case, let's say the porting house ports your game to all the consoles, sells it a couple of times, but just a couple of times, not a lot. Are you still happy with the outcome, the results? Did you put in any time or work? If not, it's still a couple of sales you made. Of course, in those type of contracts, you have to figure out, does the porting company want to get their investment back first? Don't go with that. Remember, you also invested in the game. You made the game. You made it interesting enough for them to contact you or for them to be interested in porting it. So 50-50 at worst case scenario. And you're still... It's your game, you put a lot of time in there, you also need to make that money back. Even if they are doing the porting work, it shouldn't be just it shouldn't just work that they are getting their returns on investment, all of that first on the 100% revenue, and then start sharing with you, because in that worst case, they won't sell enough copies to make back their own investment and you will never see money on your console version. So things like that is what you have to look out for and try to find something that you are happy with. And that's the key thing. Next question. You publish your first indie game, probably a flop. What do you do next? How do you learn from that? How would you recommend? What's the first thing you should do? How do you get back on your feet? Yeah, I think if that happens, you are already in trouble. Before you publish or release your first game, you should make sure that game is very tiny and small and you learn the ropes of everything else around it. How to actually put that game on Steam or on consoles or on other app stores. How to go through all those steps and phases. How to release something from start to finish. And that's the first thing you should learn, and not just releasing your first game, because it's most likely not going to be a hit game. It's most likely going to cost you money and not give you enough revenue as you kind of dreamed about. It's going to be doing a far less. The only person that has a winner on their hands as the first game is that weird guy, not at the back, but way behind him. Like nobody sees him. He's there probably. Nobody knows who he is, but he's there and he apparently had an idea and everybody's going to love it. But that's very rare. Nobody is that guy in the back of the back, honestly. Make sure before you release your first game, you know what's going to be happening. Make sure the game is made in a short time cycle. Don't spend years on it, because it's just not smart. That's not how you should approach it, honestly. There's a lot more to releasing games, and there's also a lot of business things you should be learning. And you could do a Kickstarter, you could do find funding, find a publisher, all that business type stuff, and a lot of us don't like it. But if that's what you want to do, release games and keep releasing them, you have to learn those things as well before you release your first game. Alright, the other question is pretty much combining those two, self-publishing versus publisher for your first games, pros and cons. Look, if it's your first game and a publisher is approaching you to publish it, like a really good publisher, not just somebody who buys up a bunch of games and then dumps it on the market, but really a publisher with a name who is willing to invest money into you, if that happens, you have a hit game on your hands. You have something magical, something great, something that attracts people even before it's released and done. That's very rare. You can try and contact publishers yourself. You can show them your game and maybe they will be interested. But that's also currently very rare. As I'm recording this video in 2023, it's very rare because publishers have certain schedules. They're filled with good games. They also get like 100 games a week or month or whatever. They can cherry pick the best games. So the chances of your first game being picked up by a publisher are very slim. Let's call it that. They're very slim. So go with self-publishing. That also allows you to learn more about the marketplace and how it all works. It also allows you to grow your business awareness and people knowing your name and brand. Just a lot of things that you have to go through to also fully understand what a publisher can help with. If you ever end up with a publisher, you'll know what they have to do. You know this type of stuff you need to see from them, and you know what to ask for in a contract agreement or in discussions with the publisher. So it's always a good thing to just self-publish your first game or your first couple of games. I don't think many game developers have managed to find a publisher for their first game. That just rarely happens. Sorry. All right, next question. How would you start as a developer if you would start your career now? I talked about that a couple of videos ago, so I'm not going into that one. Check my video a few weeks ago, how to start game development in 2023. And on to the next question, entrepreneurship as an indie dev. What do you need to learn? Where do you learn it from? How do you start? A lot of things I just mentioned. It's really doing it. Just release games and go through all the stages of releasing it. Other stuff like contracts, agreements, business opportunities. I learned it by just doing it, and if something came on my path, I would just think about it, trust my gut feeling, and just wing it. Okay, so different methods of monetization. Sell premium, free, with ads, publishers. What other options are there? What works, doesn't work in your experience? I can tell you what works or doesn't work for me in my experience, but it all depends on what you as a game developer want from your games and your audience. Free with advertising, I tried it for a while, and back in those days it kind of did okay. So I had them alongside premium games, but the advertising market has changed and game advertising has changed so much since then. If you're doing free games now, especially on mobile, you have to you have to design your game around those things. You have to know when to show certain advertisements, you have to know when to lure players into spending money on extra items or coin. You really have to design your game around it, and that also pretty much means that that game is now mobile only, because on PC, luckily, it still doesn't work like that. It's getting there slowly as well, but it's not there yet. So that mobile game now doesn't work on PC. So if you go with freemium and advertisements and all those type of games, you're pretty much stuck to mobile. But if you also want to release on consoles, on PC and all those things, you'll have to design for that as well, and then you'll probably end up premium, asking money up front for a game, and then have the full version for those people. So it's really about what you want from your games and what you want from audience and what you want design wise, and that's really what's going to be basing the decision on free with ads or paid or whatever's in the middle. Right, question, indie games and merchandising. Any advice on how to approach the situation? Where's the right time to do it? How do you do it? What to do, what not to do? Don't. Honestly, merchandise is fun, but it doesn't really work, or doesn't. I mean, you have to be a huge game and everybody has to know you, and a huge brand. Most of us will never reach that status. If you reach that status, trust me, your email box will automatically fill up with people wanting to create merchandise for your property or your trademark or your IP or whatever. For me, I have merchandise on my website. I have stuff like caps and mouse pads and t-shirts and hoodies and all those things. But 9 out of 10 things sold through that store are sold to myself. I am my own best customer. I just like having those things on my own stuff, and it's fun to show them in the background of these videos. Well, not right now, but in my office usually. Merchandise, don't waste your time on it unless you have time to waste on it, but it's not really bringing any money, and you really have to be huge trademark wise or IP wise to actually make money on that. Most of us never get there, and even then, if you are a very known brand, merchandise probably isn't really worth it. But you'll have to ask bigger companies because I don't know that, honestly. And I haven't sorted these questions, but the next one, indie games and trademarks. Should you trademark your games titles? Pros and cons, problems you have. If you do, don't, how do you solve them? I don't think many indie game developers and smaller developers like me have to worry about trademarking stuff. If you're at that level that you can trademark stuff, you need to trademark it because other people are honing in on your trademark or your IP or brand, then you probably have enough money to spend on lawyers and trademark the crap out of everything. But most of us will never get there. That's fine. Yeah, you have your copyright and you can actually tell people to stop using your copyrighted graphics and name and art, all that. But trademarks are just another level, and I just don't think it's worth it for most of us. I never trademarked anything and haven't had any problems so far. And that's it for this week's video. Hey Milo, you want a cap? You want some baseball cap? Thanks for watching. It's like I said and explained last week, a couple of weeks with weird videos because we're actually closing my wife's store, moving it all to a storage locker room, going for a web-only version of that store. So I've been doing different things during my week, and then I just had to come up with interesting videos. So hope this was interesting enough. I want to thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below if you have more questions. Also comment below if there are other or certain topics in this video that you want a longer video on or more explanation. I can imagine you want that, so drop that in the comment below. Come hang out on Discord, and I am now alone, sitting on my knees without a cat near me. Why am I? We have 5 cats. Somehow they didn't want to show up to the video. So I'm now gonna hunt them down with you. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, all that stuff. Here are some cat videos.